Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today's Thursday, April the 3rd, and this is episode number 289, our second episode on video. So we're happy to be with you tonight, and without further ado, I'm going to bring in my co-host and brother, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, how are things going?
Great, man. It was kind of weird last week seeing myself on YouTube.
Yeah. Welcome to I guess the new century and the world of fame and all that stuff, right?
Well, if anybody has been listening to us for a while, they know that this wouldn't have been possible a couple of years ago with the internet I have in my home. Finally, thanks to the speed of T-Mobile, we're able to do this. So pretty thankful for that, and thankful for all the new people who have started watching us. Appreciate that. If you're catching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to this so that you can find us more easily.
Absolutely. We're part of the Fanatical Elves Network, and check those guys out. And you can also find us, find the audio version of the show on YouTube and where pretty much all your better podcasts are found. So definitely subscribe there too. We appreciate everybody checking us out. So
we promise you that over the course of time, we're going to be dragged kicking and screaming into the modern age, and we'll be able to do all kinds of cool technical stuff here like all the other guys do.
Well, yeah, we're enjoying this, Jeff, and it's fun and everything. But honestly, I don't know if we would have done this if I hadn't gotten the message that Skype was ending and that they were no longer going to be allowing me to use that platform to record. And I'm like, well, if I gotta learn something new, I might as well learn
right.
Learn the right way, right?
It's kind of like having to give up your first AOL email.
Yeah, darn it! Oh. I gotta switch all this stuff over. What do you mean I can't dial up with my phone anymore?
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right. Well, we have a guest, Jeff. Believe it or not.
Quite a guest.
We're going to bring in David Evans Smith. Follow him at Grumpy Lift Medic on X. And David is joining us all the way from Australia. David, how are you tonight?
Hi, David.
G'day, boys. How are we? It's good to see you both again.
Great. So, David, it's Thursday night here, and it's Friday lunchtime in Australia.
It certainly is, yep. 12:02 on a Friday. Sadly, the weather has turned. We've finally hit our autumnal change and a little bit of a cool change and heavy rain last night. But I was hoping to sit out on the deck and sort of you could see a bit of Aussie sun. But nice. Sadly, it's overcast and a little bit cranky out there today.
Yeah.
Well, we have that rain in common because the storms have been a little bit active here too.
I've been keeping an eye on that. Yeah, so it's currently 60 in Fahrenheit, but for us it's in Celsius it's only 16. So it's a little bit on the cooler side, but still nice. Still t-shirt weather.
Yeah,
perfect.
We're just
love the t-shirt.
Yeah, love the guards.
Look at that. We're all sporting some kind of Cleveland. What should you say? Garb
team
tonight.
paraphernalia.
Team paraphernalia.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. That's right. So
that's
beautiful. Yeah, it's always fun setting these up with you, David, because we get to figure out the time difference and when this works. And I know it's like was it 12? Not 12. It's what, 15 hours?
15 hours. Yeah, 15 hours. Because you guys have just gone into your summer daylight savings. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah,
and we're about to go back, so it'll end up being 14 or 16. I'll have to get back to you on that.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah. That's too much math for this point in the podcast, David.
It's too much math for this old bloke right here.
Yeah, we've just gone into the summer daylight savings time, so we only have about 2 months of winter left.
Yep. Only 2 months of winter left, and you're 35 days of summer.
That's right. We got that little sliver coming. Definitely.
It's full of dry heat and midges, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
No, yeah.
That's right.
Not dry heat.
No.
No, we get humid up here.
You don't. Yeah. We've had that recently. We've had a spate of beautiful weather, late summer, early autumn, which is almost back at summer, mid to late 20s for us. So what's that, 70s, 80s, and about 4 or 5 days into just touching the 90s. But then we had a burst of what we call almost Queensland weather, where you walk outside and you were just hit with a wet feeling because it was so humid. Yeah, but as I said, it's turned for the nasty now. But anyway, yeah,
right.
Yeah, we've got a while.
Talks about the weather. Nobody does anything about it.
No,
that's right. Doggone it.
And that concludes our weather segment for tonight. Now on to sports.
Yeah,
international weather.
Bring in the sports team.
Yeah, before we go to sports,
we're
going to talk about what we're drinking tonight, our Blitz beverages. David, I know you've got something good there to talk about.
Yep.
He's opening.
Sun, as I said, sun's up past the yard arm, so it's allowed. So this is a Four Pines Brewing, Japanese style lager, light, crispy, much like an Asahi, if you've ever had that, or a Kirin, Ichiban, light, flavorful lager, 4.5%. 4.5%, or 1.3 standards. So here's cheers, lads.
Cheers.
What about yourself, Rod? What have you got?
I'm drinking. Jeff, you go, Jeff.
Yeah, well, I'm going to join you tonight. I've got a Stella NA here.
Oh, nice.
It kind of disappears because I don't have a green
screen.
The bottle's green.
The
bottle's green. So, but trust me, I'm drinking it from a bottle, so I'm skirting the tariffs. This is one of my standards.
Beautiful. Yeah, don't mind the old Stella.
Cheers to you, David.
Cheers to you, mate.
Guys, I'm drinking the Quaffon peanut butter busted knuckle from out of Nashville, Indiana. So dug back a little bit. This is a peanut butter porter. Very good. I don't know. I guess I know we're getting into summer, guys, but it just sounded good. I can't keep track of which direction we're even going with this weather anymore. It's like, is it getting cold? Is it getting warm? What's it doing?
You like those peanut butters?
I must say, I'm happy to have a porter or a stout in the middle of summer as well. Yes, they're a heavier flavour, but I don't find them sort of ridiculously heavy in that regard.
No, this isn't.
Right.
I'm trying to remember what the percentage on this one is. I don't know if it says on here. I can't find it. It's not real high though. I don't think it's that high. So I won't. My light's not that great in here, despite how bright it appears to be. A lot brighter than last week in my temporary studio here, guys. So yeah, that's a long story that we probably don't need to go into right now.
We're waiting for the budget to come through from the network to build the formal studio.
To build the well, I actually got booted, Jeff. I mean, a lot of people know I'm working on my basement right now. So last weekend I did more demo in the basement, and what that did is that forced the cats out of the basement and upstairs. So what we did was we converted my normal studio study into the cat's room while I'm working in the basement. So that sent me into an extra bedroom here for my temporary studio, and we'll see. So this could be a matter of weeks. It could be months. We'll see. It depends how forever it takes me to get the basement done.
Yeah.
Just don't kick over a tray of kitty litter. That's the last thing you need.
Yeah. Like I've never done that before. Yeah.
Oh my.
All right, guys. Well, there's a bunch of news going on, right now.
Yes. I've got strings flying around in front of me here, so don't mind me looking left and right. I've got it all sort of happening because the Guards kick off in about 30 minutes against the Angels. We've got all the stuff that's happening, all the pontification that's going on about draft selection. My goodness, can we just get it over and done with?
Yeah, yeah, no kidding.
3 more weeks.
It's going to be a long 3 weeks.
Yeah, for me, I guess, and there's a lot of news, so we'll touch on all this stuff. But for me, the thing I was most excited about was the whole, and it's got nothing to do with the team right now. Was the whole thing of the NFL recognizing the AAFC statistics and the fact that they're finally acknowledging that happened and is now seen as part of, league stats and league history. Right. So it changed a lot of things as far as, mostly statistics and how people view rankings and all that. But, I guess the big winners, first of all, the Cleveland Browns, we've always known they had 8 titles, but now it's actually recognized. And Paul Brown, picked up a bunch of wins, moved from 22nd up to 7th place all time. Marion Motley could talk. Well, we're gonna talk about him a lot in the future, but now seen as the running back with the highest yards per carry average in league history at 5.7. Luke Rosa moves from 41st up to 24th and scoring in league history. And probably the most interesting out of all of these is the 1948 Browns going 14-0, winning the title, finishing 15-0, and being out there with the 72 Dolphins. And what does that mean? How pissed off is that 72 Dolphins team now?
I can't imagine those guys are very happy.
What are they going to do with their champagne? Are they going to pretend this didn't happen? And I've got nothing against 72 Dolphins. I mean, I think most, a lot of us were kind of growing up then and kind of like those guys anyway. So it's not like I had an axe to grind with the 72 Dolphins at all. But how do you think?
I reckon I've watched that. I reckon I've watched that 72 Dolphins TV show that through the NFL Films. We get them here in Melbourne, and they're almost played back to back all throughout the year at different times. And I reckon I've probably seen it 7 or 8 times. And you're right. There's nothing to dislike about them.
No,
they were hard nosed. They were, brilliant, a brilliant team, well coached. They'd gone through their trials and tribulations. We all know that probably the most out of the nose out of joint, the most was probably the black and yellow mob down the road.
Right.
I saw a little bit on X last night about 8 versus 6 and all this sort of stuff, and I'm like, the one argument is obviously it's pre-Super Bowl era, post-Super Bowl era, and the uniting of the 2 leagues. But I'm still happy to go 8-8, baby, 8-8.
That's right. When you have 8, then we'll talk. But yeah,
right.
Yeah. It's just all pretty cool. It's cool to see these guys get their due, and they've always had it in Cleveland. But I'm hoping that this will, even within Cleveland, that this will make some of the younger fans more aware of some of the players on those teams and what those teams accomplished. I think a lot of the younger fans probably know the rich history that, they certainly know Jim Brown, and they probably know, a bit about Otto Graham and maybe Luke Rosa, but you start going back to Marion Motley, and they probably don't know much about him at all.
No, but even like Luke Rosa, they mightn't necessarily know a lot unless they've been to Canton to the Hall of Fame, which they're obviously now going to have to update a lot of the data that's already in there to adjust for this if they hadn't already. But, outside of Luke Rosa Boulevard, most of them probably wouldn't know necessarily who Lou the Toe was.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
Even this bloke on the other side of the globe. knows a little bit about him.
Oh yeah, but you're a football guy and a Browns fan, so you've.
I am. Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very long time. Long suffering, like all of us.
That's right. So, Jeff, did you have other thoughts on that, on the AAFC? Those stats and all that coming into, really just being recognized, I guess.
Yeah, like you said, right? We've known it in Cleveland. We've always said it. It's just the NFL finally recognizing it just makes it official. But that's only in terms of how they perceive it. As far as how we've always perceived it, and I think everybody in football has perceived it. All those guys are in the Hall of Fame for a reason.
Yeah.
And I mean, the majority of their career was in the AAFC.
Easy for me to say. Huh?
Yeah. Like David said, just take a stroll down to Canton, Ohio, and you'll be familiar with what that conference, what those guys did.
That's right.
And the crazy thing is those guys were, they were teachers and painters and politicians and who knows what all else in their day job. And football was, it was sort of a second gig for most of them. Marion Motley couldn't even stay in the same hotels with the rest of his team back in those days. It was a completely different time. And yeah, you can make a case that athletes have changed and all those kinds of things, but in their day, they still were the very best professional athletes playing football, and the record speaks for itself.
Well, I put out a tweet that a lot of people liked and saw about Marion Motley. He was 6'1", 232, playing running back in the late 40s and into the 50s.
That roughly made him about the same size as most of the linemen.
Probably so. Yeah,
maybe bigger than some.
Guys today wouldn't want to tackle him.
No,
who wouldn't?
No.
So it's crazy. Talk about a guy that you would have, or that I would have liked to have seen play. Just to see a guy like that would have been fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So the speed, the power. The size, the speed, the speed, the power that he had. That from all reports, it would have been a sight to behold. I mean, 6'3", that's Derrick Henry size, if I'm not mistaken, or thereabouts.
Very close. Yeah.
So you're sort of talking a 1940s Derrick Henry, who's now being recognised as such, who would be, if there was the film around in the vast quantity with the analysis, would be a fantastic teaching tool.
Right.
But even with the game changing and styles and all that, a running back is a running back is a running back. They still have to go north-south with the odd east-west run. But I think someone like that would be pretty amazing to have seen. And we've only seen bits and pieces of what Jim did. Those
right. There's not
trundling down the sideline. I'm sure Marion would have done similar and probably had 4 or 5 blokes hanging off his back. He's going to go away.
Oh yeah, very similar. Yeah, very similar, and
amazing.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So the next bit of news was the Jimmy Haslam announcement that about Deshaun Watson, that it was a swing and a miss, pretty much ending the era for Watson, making it very apparent that we're not going to see him play again. I think you could almost feel a collective sigh of relief in the whole fan base when this happened. And you can say whatever else you want about Haslam or what happened with the trade or whatnot. It just felt good for this to happen. So
cathartic.
Yeah.
Exact word I was thinking of, mate.
Yeah, the fan base can move on now. Not only that, I think, but the national media can move on from it. The speculation that our regime is on the clock this year sort of got put put aside for a little while. Not to say that, they aren't going to be evaluated season by season,
Right.
but we're finally hearing from the owners of this football team that they're in this for the long haul. They're not looking for miracles. They're not expecting immediate turnarounds. And we've been talking about it for a long time, Rod, about how you realistically can't do that. When something like this happens, particularly.
Mhm.
This is what it looks like when a team goes all in and fails. It just didn't work, right? So
Yeah.
now we're having to do some retooling, right? But as long as the ownership is on board with that and believes and trusts in the football people, we can get past it. We can move on and figure out what the next version is going to look like. And I think he did a great service to the front office, the coaching staff, by putting an end to that kind of speculation that, hey, they better win X number of games this year, or,
Yeah.
you can't go into a draft like that. You should have just fired him last year if that is the way you're going to approach it. So for me, it's just another growth step for this organization to get out of the wash, rinse, repeat cycle that we've been in for 25 years.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I think you're right in what you're saying. In that it was cathartic, but it was also, I feel like, and this is more power to Jimmy for doing so. May have taken some impetus from Denver, who washed their hands. Wasn't as big a contract, but we're still talking huge amount of money that they're on the hook for another 2 or 3 years. With
that was for a
Mr.
while.
Russell,
Yeah.
Russell Wilson,
Mr. Invincible, or whatever he called himself, yeah, in that Subway sandwich ad or whatever. But yeah, Russell Wilson. So I mean, they've taken a massive hit. We've taken a massive hit in money, in goodwill and faith in the organisation. That's going to hopefully win some of it back. It's not going to bring everyone back. I think a lot of us from the get-go were a little excited, but then as things evolved, and there's no point rehashing it, because it's going to get rehashed in the media over the next 3 to 6 months, because he's still going to be in the building rehabbing, because he's allowed to do that. He's under contract still. All that sort of stuff I just think it's fantastic that you're right, that he's literally taken ownership of it and gone, the buck stops with D and I. We have to move on. Now, you rightly point out, it doesn't preclude Kevin and Andrew for being on the hot seat if we go, 3 and X again, 3 and 14 again. We could be in a whole new regime. But it also gives us the hope to have a look at what happened in 2018-19. Arizona Cardinals took Josh Rosen, who we were rumoured to pick, but I had no faith that we were ever going to take him. I'd read so many articles. I think we even discussed this on the show in the previous platform, but then they got rid of him a year later and have taken Kyler. So there's no reason with pick 2 or 33, which we'll obviously discuss later on, we take a QB, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not as impunitive as it once was with, like your Sam Bradford contracts and all those sorts of things. So
right.
Yeah, that's just my
I think you're right, Dave. There's a review process every year. I think you review your organization every year and you say, how successful were we? What were the things that contributed to that? Every organization should do that. I think it does do that. We finally feel now in Cleveland like we have some respected people in the building. Doesn't mean they're going to be right 100% of the time. They're going to make mistakes, and the Watson deal, I think, is just a great example of when a team acts out of desperation. We had a lot of great players that were entering the best years of their careers and team friendly contracts. What a great time to go all in and take a shot at getting yourself a top 5 quarterback, right? And in hindsight, everybody would say it was a terrible decision. But at the time, it seemed like, well, why not? Why not take a shot at it, right? There are plenty of quarterbacks out there, not a lot of great ones.
And that's it.
Right. So we can go find average quarterback play, hopefully, and maybe someday we'll find that great one. But
that's
the hard part.
Who would have thought? 3-4 years ago now, if we were sitting here doing this podcast, which we probably were, but 3 or 4 years ago,
yeah, we probably were.
May have been.
We would never have even thought of bringing up Brock Purdy as a potential.
No.
He was Mr. Irrelevant, which I think is a bit of a harsh thing, but we all know where it came from and why and all that. But look at him now. Yes, everyone goes, oh, he's a system quarterback. Yes, he is. But guess what? He's in the right system. You find the right quarterback that'll fit your system. Everyone's a system quarterback at some point in their journey. It wasn't until later on that Ben and Tom and Dan and Bernie were calling their own plays in the huddle with sort of free range outside of maybe the first scripted 10 to 15 back then. Now we're talking 20 to 30. So, look, let's
quarterback's a hard position. I mean, it's like a left-handed pitcher in baseball. If you've got a decent one, you're going to hang on to him.
Absolutely.
And so they don't just become available typically.
Through thick and thin.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, even Atlanta's going through it now with Kirk. That contract's ugly.
Yeah. I'll throw another one at you. This time last year, who would have been in line to sign Sam Darnold? I mean, after 5 mediocre years in the league, right? He ends up basically sitting out a year, and then he gets an opportunity with the Vikings, and the next thing you know, he's out signing a huge free agent contract, right? Nobody really could have said at this point last year that they would have seen that coming.
No way.
So yeah. So you're right. Sometimes it's just circumstances. Sometimes it's maturity. We saw that with Baker.
Absolutely.
He's matured, and now he's turned into a serviceable NFL quarterback. Right? Just didn't work here. So yeah, every year brings new opportunities, I think, and eventually we'll find somebody that can stick around for a little while, I hope. But if we don't, hey, we'll just keep playing 4 or 5 guys a year, and some years we'll win 11 games, and some years we'll win 3 games.
Yeah, hopefully age comes, and I know Jimmy's obviously a hell of a lot older, but with age of ownership comes the capacity to be a bit calmer and a little less knee-jerk on his reactions of sacking and hiring. And we've all heard the stories and read the articles of them almost having Lord of the Flies type shenanigans going on in the offices of, who can garner Jimmy's favour and sacrifice the most to get the next promotion. And all this. Hopefully he can stop that malarkey and actually go, hang on, this is a football team. We've got a really good core group of players. Yes, the ones that we really, really like and love the most are getting older, but we've now got some, younger blokes that we're hoping can fall into that footstep and that mould of each of those players. And even with some of these free agent signings that we've had, they're a little bit older as well. But you know what? They might be, again, circumstance, right place, right time, right environment.
Yeah.
And that's the eternal optimist of us 3 as Browns fans and everyone
who's
going to watch and listen to this. This year's going to be no.
I am nothing if not the eternal optimist. I'm guilty as charged.
I'm guilty of being a pessimist sometimes, but that's that's the joys of my nature.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, we've been talking about it for months. That the only thing that made sense was that this front office or that this staff, this regime, probably had more than just this season because it was all
Yeah.
that made sense. And Jimmy hasn't really confirmed that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Though, Rod, the conversations like that don't get you looks. They don't get you likes. They don't get you follows. They don't get you watches on YouTube. I mean, we try to have reasonable conversations on this podcast about what makes sense and what, where we should be headed. We're not throwing out Dak Prescott trades.
I don't have a crazy take today.
Right. Yeah. Let's throw something wild out there. Right. But
just try to be realistic.
People listen to us. They're going to hear the stuff that makes sense from a business standpoint, from a professional athlete standpoint. Those are the kinds of things that we want to talk about.
And they're
that's why we get it right more often than not.
Yeah, and they're going to get an outstanding guest every week.
Absolutely.
Except this week, it's a bit mediocre. He already put the Guardians out playing today. They're actually playing tomorrow. See, this time thing, that's just.
Well, what you need to do is tell us if they're winning. That way we can.
Let us know. That way, we can get a bet down on them.
That's it. Yeah.
Now that would be a hot take.
Yeah, that'd be a wild hot take.
Yeah. We can really master this time travel thing. We'd be in good shape. So.
Right.
Yeah. Who needs a sports almanac? You've got me.
That's right.
From Back to the Future.
Right.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break for these messages. We'll be back with more of the Browns Blitz in just a moment. And we are back with David Evans Smith and more of the Browns Blitz. Guys, let's move on to just a couple other pieces of news. I guess things have shifted a little bit with Kirk Cousins. I'm saying that he wants to be cut. There are so many theories going around with the QB stuff right now. I honestly, I don't even know if this stuff's worth talking about or if we should just kind of sit back and wait until it happens. But yeah. I guess it's looking more like he's going to be cut. That there's, that a trade's not going to happen now, even after, it sounded like things were hot and heavy for a trade. So you got that and what that does, plus what Jimmy said for the number 2 pick. So let's kind of couple that with the fact that that Jimmy Haslam had dinner with Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. I guess that was tonight. Their pro days tomorrow. So it's kind of apparent. I mean, we know what the options are at number 2 right now. It's going to be Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, or it's going to be, it's going to be one of the quarterbacks, depending on what Tennessee does, or a trade down. Yeah. And it seems like depending on what day it is, the news is kind of trying to push us one direction or the other. First it was like, it's going to be Shedeur Sanders. And then it's going to be Abdul Carter. And now, and nobody's even talking about Travis Hunter. And now it's like out of nowhere, it almost feels like Travis Hunter is the favorite for number 2 right now.
Yeah. And if you go back a few weeks, Rod, I think 4 or 5 weeks ago, we talked about what the national pundits had the Browns doing. And by far and away, Travis Hunter was the favorite nationally. None of the local people were saying that. But all of the big guys were saying that the Browns, based on need, based on athleticism, et cetera, that Travis Hunter was the best fit for us.
Well, some people think he's the best player in the draft, too.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's the most athletic. I'm going to throw something out now since we're talking about Travis Hunter that Jeremy texted me earlier today.
Okay.
And it was kind of a light bulb moment for me. I said, I didn't even think about that. But, everybody's talking about how Travis Hunter is going to come in and play 2 positions. So, you've got a slot receiver or whatever you do with him on offense. Maybe he's a gadget guy or whatever. And then, you're starting him as either a slot corner, or maybe he bumps outside occasionally, wherever you need him, right? What happens when he gets hurt? Now you've lost 2 guys.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I've heard a couple people say that.
Actually. And I'm thinking, I mean, you think about that, that okay, yeah, he's gonna potentially fill 2 roster spots, but then he gets injured, and now we've got to backfill 2 roster spots with guys who probably aren't going to be as good, right? So I guess it's a risk reward thing with him. I could see where the need on our roster would fit well with his skill set. He would give us that extra receiver. He would give us that extra D-back that we definitely need on our roster. But I would almost rather have one great player than 2 half players, if you know what I mean.
What do you think,
100%.
David?
Well, it's a bit of, I know it's a bit of a crass way of putting it, but you can't be half pregnant. Like you said, he's going to be, I heard some people talking about this the other day, and they were saying that you'd rather get him as a receiver because he is built almost identical to Denzel. But I don't know that he has that linebacker mentality that Denzel has that puts him in positions of danger to, concussions and injuries like you're pointing at. Receivers, really soft tissue injuries, and I've got issues with our strength and conditioning team, which I think I've raised in the past, that we seem to have a hell of a lot of soft tissue injuries compared to other teams. Given all the money that Jimmy and that spent, $1 billion in the last, 5 years or something, he spent on the team, plus maybe stuff that we don't even know about. So, we need to manage that side of him, his receiver side, which is 100% correct. But even just tracking back a little bit in regards to who seems to be flavour of the month, I feel like there's a WhatsApp group with some of these national pundits. They spin a wheel of fortune on a Monday morning and go, this week, Cleveland's going to get Abdul Carter. Like, I mean, there was
we're going to
3
hype
weeks.
this guy.
Yeah, exactly right. And why is it only really 4 players?
Yeah.
There's going to be 500 kids in the draft, but we've seemed to really, and I know the top end of the draft and picks 1, 2, and 3 are always very important and all that sort of stuff. I understand that, but there's so many good players, and I know they're not always in the sexy positions because we're talking D-line, we're talking O-line, we're talking, running backs. Running backs lost favour, but it's a point of need for several teams now. And I still couldn't get my head, and I'm sure you blokes, and I think I've heard you blokes talk about this, that we can't get our head around the thing of, Cleveland, Shadur Sanders is no good for Cleveland, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, but a perfect fit for New York. What? they're both as bad as one another organisationally. I mean, thank goodness the worst we had was I'm the head of the bus, coming from our old mate Hugh from a few years ago, to the Sun saying don't get rid of Saquon Barkley and to pick Jaden Daniels, and what 2 things happened and what both blew up in the Giants' faces, both those things. And that was on film forever,
Right.
They're both badly run organizations. So I don't understand why that week or that 3-week period was, Shadur has to go to New York because he's no good for Cleveland, but Cleveland needs a quarterback just as much. And you're right. So, I don't even know where to go with it. I've been looking at it, and one of the boys in our Melbourne Browns backers is an absolute demon on the draft computer, and he keeps pumping out probably 3 or 4 different draft selection, mock drafts a day almost, I feel like. And we're all just hanging it on him because it's just, because there's Jackson Dart here and so here and that. And it's like, we just need to pump the brakes. Like I said to you earlier, we just need to get it over and done with.
You can't have everybody. Yeah.
No, that's exactly right. But as for Hunter, you're right. I must admit, I hadn't thought of that either, but you pose a really good point, I should say. Sorry, I put their false teeth back in. If he gets injured, you're right. You're now finding 2, potentially 3 spots, because slot versus, is he slot receiver and slot corner, or is he going to play almost a free safety style if he's going to play, too high? What's he going to do? You're right. So not only is it probably potentially 2 players that are replacing, it could be a third because of what gadgets you're going to put in. Is he going to be, is that where Jamari Thrash would have been and now's out because of this? Great. Sorry, I went on multiple tangents there, but
Well, here's the thing, though. If you take a guy like that, you're obviously drafting him for when he's available, right? Because he's going to be a difference maker, possibly on offense and defense. So I'm sitting here thinking, you're comparing it to Denzel. What if he is a cornerback anywhere near the league of Denzel? Okay, which I think is kind of what people are expecting.
Right.
I don't know that he is.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's got to prove himself in the NFL at either position. But what if he's like that? And now picture Denzel Ward. What if Denzel was like him and a great receiver? Would you guys have a problem with Denzel going out there and playing 10 or 15 snaps at receiver a game? I'm serious. It would be the same case.
Yeah.
And we've always fantasized about having Miles line up in a tight end, whether it be a tush-push scenario or a little fade out for a short yardage goal line thing.
But we know Travis Hunter can play both possessions.
So if, you know what? If I'm an opposing team, like those guys down the road in the black and gold, and my number one corner comes out on offense, and they're going to let him run across the middle. What do you think a guy like Micah Parsons has in store for that guy? There you go.
Yeah.
Let's just take him off the field, and now not only will he not be out on offense, but you've taken away one of your best players on defense as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm not a fan of it.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think Travis Hunter, they have to decide, whoever drafts him has to decide what he's going to be and make him that. And if he's good enough to be the number one corner in the draft, then you draft him accordingly. I don't think you draft him because of what he did in college. To David's point, he's not the most athletic guy in the draft. He's not the biggest guy in the draft. He's a guy who did something in college that he probably won't do in the pros.
Well, yeah.
So if he's a top corner in the draft, great. That makes him a top 10 pick. I don't think that makes him number 2 overall.
I've heard other analysts say that he's not the top corner, even if you just put him at corner, and he's not the top receiver. It's this whole gadget Swiss Army knife that I think is the most enticing. But the injury point, and we see a lot of injuries right across the league, that poses a really good question. You've used number 2 pick on him. He goes down in training.
I mean, some people have him rated as the top corner or the top wide receiver. So it's hard.
As I keep saying, it's a crapshoot. It's the draft. We have no idea.
The draft is for sure.
We have no idea how they're going to translate from college to.
And there's I think that there's arguments against pretty much anybody the Browns are going to take. So you just have to, but you either have to take somebody or trade down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a gambler, but in the draft, for me, the more tickets you have or selections, the better your chances are of coming away with some good players.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm a big proponent of a trade down. This is one of those unique times for the Browns where, yes, we have a lot of needs, but they're not going to be addressed by rookies necessarily, and particularly not in this draft. So let's throw a whole bunch of picks at the fan and see what happens. And
where would you go though, Jeff? How far down would you trade back? Because you've obviously got New York at 3, New England I think's at 4.
Yeah.
I can't remember who's at 5, and the Raiders are at 6.
The Jets are at 5, I think.
Jets are at 5.
Yeah.
Another quality organization that's run really well.
Right. I think
we just trade below all those guys and wait for them to blow picks.
Well, that's it.
In a perfect world, David, I would want to be still in the top 15 because I think there are probably 15 players in this draft that would grade out as far as anybody's concerned as a first round pick. Beyond that, it starts to get pretty murky. So then I want to get back into the bottom of the first round. If there's a player there that I really love, and there might be, okay.
It's very likely.
I think I need to get ahead of the Steelers, though, or maybe a couple of other teams that would select the guy that I want. Okay, my favorite left tackle in this draft, Josh Conley Jr., I think isn't going to get past Kansas City if he drops that far. So we almost need to get back into the the bottom of the first round, even if it means sacrificing a few picks later. If we really want to get two very impactful players out of this draft, which for me, that when you're in this position, that's what you want. We talked a while back about the drafts where we had, multiple first round picks and we came away with impactful players. That changes a franchise. That makes a big difference, right? So it gets you ahead of everybody else because everybody else has got a first round pick this year too.
And it's the first time we've had. So actually, Jacksonville's 5.
Yeah.
Jacksonville's 5. New York 7. I just had a look.
Oh, okay.
List.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's the first time in 3 years that we've had a first round draft pick, and I think that's putting a lot of pressure on the whole organization and fan base that we haven't had one in 3 years. Oh my God, what are we going to do? And
it's almost like we have to make up for 4 years.
Don't blow it.
It's like a 4-year pick.
Don't pick Corey Coleman.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of ways to come out of this draft happy. I would be super happy with one of the top left tackles in the draft. I would be super happy if we came out of this draft with a quarterback anywhere in the first 3 rounds that had a high ceiling. I'd also be happy if we came out of this draft with a quarterback that had a really high floor. We've talked about this before. You could potentially take one of each in this draft. And the worst case scenario is you find out you got a really solid backup for a long time. That won't hurt you, No,
that's right. No.
There's enough needs on our team that we could plug players into. We could definitely use another corner. We could use a free safety. Just up and down the offensive line, we need players, for 26 and beyond. So, I'm going to be really surprised if the Browns stay pat and draft with their current selections. I mean, if they do, okay, I still think we'll do well. But the way Andrew Berry participates in a draft is, he doesn't sit back and let it come to him. He goes and makes things happen. So I wouldn't at all be surprised to see us trade down a few spots and then trade back up into the first round and come out of this draft with a top 15 guy and a top 20 guy. And that would be really something.
That sounds sensible and reasonable, I think.
That's
so
kind of our MO.
I know you're looking at positions, Jeff, too, but if you're going top 15, and this is for you too, David, who we talked about Travis Hunter, and people even have questions about Abdul Carter too. Who do you feel like is as close as you can get to a can't miss guy in this draft in that top 15?
Top 15. Oh.
Jeremy tells me it's Mason Graham, Rod.
Mason Graham.
And I told him I'd go back and look at the tape. Because he's the D tackle out of Michigan. He is probably the most risk-free pick in the draft. Okay, as far as what you see is what you get. He's going to be probably an all-pro run-stopping D tackle. I think he's going to be limited in terms of the amount of pressure he can put on the quarterback. But but he will probably be a all-pro level D tackle multiple times in his career. That's just not sexy enough for me to do at number 2. Sorry. I want a more impactful guy.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I mean, I'm allowing for a trade down here, obviously.
Yeah. So So if we're down, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the tackle we want is gone, or the cornerback we want is gone, and you could do worse than take Mason Graham up there, right? But we went D tackle with our first pick last year. I think it's not all that hard to get high level play from D tackles in the NFL, or reasonably high level. So that seems like a lot of draft capital for me to spend on that position. I'd be more inclined to go a cornerback, a left tackle, specifically, even a wide receiver. At that point, I would take one of the top wide receivers if we're still in the top 10. I'd love to have that extra gadget for whoever ends up playing quarterback for us.
Yeah, David, who are you thinking of?
I was just having a look at some of the draft, the mock drafts that you can. This is what he sends on a daily basis of mock drafts.
That's a phone full.
Yeah, he has too much time on his hands.
Yeah, well, yeah. He hasn't actually gone a lot of wide receivers, and I must admit I didn't get a chance this year to watch as much college football as I did last year. But one of the ones that he's and the boys in the chat have often talked about. I've just lost it. Who it was? I'll come back to you. I'll find the name. Sorry, I've scrolled through so many women.
That's all right.
Emeka
Abuka from Ohio State.
Yeah, from Ohio State. That was one of the ones that they talked about. But again, I don't think that's a number 2 pick.
He's more like bottom of the first round.
He's in that second tier of players, I think, David, beyond the top 15. Yeah, he could go anywhere from 16 to 25 or into the top of the second round.
And he could end up being the best receiver in the draft. As a pro, we don't know, but
I was lucky enough to see the Natty, and I was lucky enough to see the Texas game and a couple of the others around. But like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch enough college football this year.
Yeah, he's an excellent player, but he's not going to be the first wide receiver.
In a couple of his drafts, he's had him at 33, which I think is probably more reasonable.
That's pretty.
There's a good chance.
Yeah. I guess the big one is at 2. If by some strange chance that they pass on Cam, do you run to the podium and take Cam Ward? Are you fans of Cam Ward?
I think the Browns would probably take him, honestly, because of his potential. I think most fans would be happy.
It'd be the most Titans thing to do, wouldn't it, to pass on Cam Ward?
It
would.
Yeah, it's kind of Browns, Titans, and Jets. Those teams that you just go.
Yeah, it's like
someone got drunk at lunch and just
standoff. Who's afraid to do what because they're they don't know. None of them think they'll get it right.
No, that's right. Yeah, they run up to the front and take Cam Scatterboot. Sure.
Right.
Number 1.
So I'll entertain your question, David, even though I think it's probably unrealistic because
so do I.
They're going to take
Tennessee's more likely if they don't love Cam Ward, they're more likely to trade that pick to somebody who does.
I think
but so let's just assume that happened. I think that the Browns would probably have to draft him at 2.
I think so.
Even though I think he's overdrafted at that point, I think he's probably a lot of the pundits say that, he would have been the 6th or 7th best quarterback last year. Well, none of that matters because quarterbacks get overdrafted in the league. And if you want the best, who's generally considered the best quarterback in the draft, you got a shot at him at number 2. I think the Browns would really have to take him.
You better, because he's not going to be there at number 3.
No,
Right.
no.
Right.
But
So
I can see, and who I'm fearful of jumping, us, is that black and gold team down south. I could just, it's just their kind of thing that they would, because they've got Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
That's their quarterback room, to my understanding. I haven't seen them sign anyone else. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am. But
I don't think they have. But I mean, they've already given up their 2nd round pick. I mean, if they do that, they would probably be giving up 3 first round picks, and I think it would harm them in the
that's
future.
unsteal a lot.
It'd be putting a lot of eggs in a basket, which they don't typically do.
that would break my heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple names to throw out, Jeff, which we haven't really talked about these scenarios much, and I think you'll probably be against both of these. But if the Browns were to trade down to that 8 to 10 range, for example, guys that I think most people see as can't miss guys are Tyler Warren, the tight end, and Ashton Genty, the running back.
Yeah.
So what would you think about if the Browns picked either one of those guys on an offense that desperately needs playmakers?
Yeah. Tyler Warren, I love Tyler Warren. I've been watching him for the last couple of years at Penn State, and I thought, Matt, boy, that would be a great guy to pick, if we could get him in the 2nd or 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Tyler Warren played so well last year that he's now put himself into the top 15.
Yeah.
And for me, that's just too high to draft a tight end, especially when you already have a highly paid tight end. And in this draft, we can go find a number 2 as late as the 4th or 5th round. So I love the guy. I think he's going to be a great player for somebody. But that's not the direction I would go with the top pick in this draft, just based on where we are.
Even if it meant keeping him from the Bengals and the Steelers.
Right. Yeah. That's the nightmare scenario, right?
Yeah.
You end up facing them twice a year.
Yeah.
Genty, again, this draft is so deep at running back that you're going to get a great running back, whether you take him in the 1st round or the 6th round. I mean, legitimately a chance at a great running back. Okay. The chances aren't as good, but I don't think there's a can't miss. Genty might be close to a can't miss running back in this draft. Omari and Hampton, you could say a few bad things about him, but mostly he's a can't miss guy. I think they'll probably both be all pro, maybe Hall of Fame type running backs. But again, that's a lot of draft capital to use up there. I'd be more inclined to go to a premium position, Rod. Again, left tackle, Kelvin Banks, Will Campbell. Even if those guys don't end up staying at tackle long term, it's a much better use of a high pick like that.
Be great players.
I'd even if we dropped a little bit lower, I'd go with a guy like Mykel Williams. He's probably in the 10 to 12 range. That would be an awesome guy to pair with Miles. If we didn't get Abdul Carter, he'd be a pretty nice consolation prize. Probably got to take him a season or 2 to get there.
Yeah.
But that's a premium position. That's where you use those kind of picks, right? Ted McMillan's been falling lately. I don't understand why. I think he's going to be a great receiver.
People say he doesn't like to watch film. People think he doesn't like football.
Okay.
That's why.
George Pickens ain't the greatest teammate either. But
maybe
is he Johnny Manziel and never even opened the iPad?
Right.
Okay. Maybe Browns can get Ted McMillan at 33 now. That'd be fine.
That'd be great. I'd be okay with that too, as long as we get a tackle somewhere.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, I know exactly what you just said about running back, but I can just see if Omari and Hampton ends up being there end of first round, close to 33, the same time that you're looking at that left tackle, how
That'd be a
torn
tough
the
call.
Browns would be. Yeah,
That would be a really tough call.
it really would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'd have to go left tackle.
I'll throw another one in there that could be there. That would be a really tough call, and that's Nick Amenworry, the safety.
Yeah.
There's a world where the Browns could potentially take Abdul Carter at number 2 and Nick Amenworry at number 33 and end up with the 2 most athletic players in the draft. You'd be going defense with your first 2 picks.
Just go offense the rest of the draft.
People would have a hard time getting their head around, right?
They would.
But,
they'd be like, what are we doing? Yeah.
Yeah, my goodness, with the impact that would have on our defense.
It would, and I mean, another guy at 33 is Emeka Ibuka, who David brought up earlier. So I mean, you run enough of these sims, and you don't know how it's going to come up, but you know that there's going to be a couple of those guys sitting there, and it almost feels more likely to be a tough decision than to be a damn, we missed a guy.
That's a good spot to be in.
It is. Yeah.
Well, here's one of the ones that one of the boys did. It's Shadur at 2, Josh Simmons at 33, and he must have had a filter on getting Ohio State because 67 he's taken Quinshawn Judkins. So there's a few of them, and then there was one of the ones that you made mention of. He actually had traded back to 10 and took or 40. He's traded back from 33 to 40 to take Omari Hampton at 40, which that's if he lasts.
Yeah,
I mean it's a big one there. But he traded back to 10 and took where was it? You just said the name as you were going as I was going through it, and I went, oh yeah, that. Again, he sent so many of them and lost them. Ashton Genty. There you go. Ashton Genty at 10, and then Jackson Dart at 33. So, and then Donovan Jackson at 41 from Ohio State. So,
Ashton Genty might be a top 15 player in this draft. I would be really surprised if he goes that early. I just don't think the league values the running back position enough to take a guy that high. He's more of a luxury than a need.
And I think what you said earlier, Jeff, really weighs into that too. The fact that this draft is so packed with running backs.
Right.
If there were only 5 running backs in this draft that looked like they could play in the NFL, he might go top 5.
Mm-hmm.
But in this draft class, I could see him dropping, and that makes it more likely that Hampton could be there at 33 for the Browns too.
Yeah. I mean, every team in the league wants to come out of the draft with impact players. They all want to maximize their draft value of the picks they have, particularly teams that have only 4 or 5 picks in the draft. They're really pressed to get maximum value. So, the luxury of having the top running back, if you need a left tackle or you need a defensive end or an edge, my goodness, you're going to take those premium positions every time versus running back.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So I do have one question for you guys. Sorry, and I'm struggling here. Everybody knows that this is our second show, so on video. So we're gonna
with your
bring up.
Yeah,
you can't see it, but this is the Nick Chubb graphic. I'm bringing up the Nick Chubb graphic. We're going to talk Nick Chubb for just a minute.
Stiff arm.
Yeah. So it's sounding more and more likely that people are hearing that Nick Chubb is going to come back to the Browns at some point. Okay, that's the word. So my question for you guys is this: can the Browns still draft 2 running backs?
Absolutely.
and carry 4 running backs on the roster this season, because I'm getting some blowback on X, occasionally for people that think, oh, you're not going to carry 4 running backs. Well, they carried 5 running backs in 22. How likely do you think that is, that with Nick back, they still draft, or even if they don't draft 2, they could draft 1, especially if it's somebody high, and bring in a UDFA running back, because there's going to be guys that don't get drafted who can play too.
Yeah,
100%. Well, we all know that the rookies are going to have to play special teams. You're not having Nick. You are not having Nick, if he comes back, play anything other than maybe first, second down, maybe third down, maybe, all going on how he's recovered. Yeah. And we know he's a machine. We've all seen the videos. He says nothing. He's never put a foot wrong. If I was the owner, if I was Jimmy, I would sign him to a veteran minimum with a ton of incentives that were soft incentives to make him like, he's a Brown. He's one of us. Like, he's a guy that you can sit down and have a cup of coffee with, and he causes no shenanigans. He is your man of all men in that locker room. You bring him back. He's gonna be a veteran voice. He's going to be able to get those kids, the running back room, those 2, whether UDFAs or draft selections, get them right. He's going to get them to be professional from the get-go. They all say that they're professional, but we all know that they're still kids. We were all loose when we were 21, 22, 20, So my wife still thinks I'm probably a little bit loose at 50. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. He is a voice of reason. He's what I like to refer to as almost like the velvet sledgehammer. A sledgehammer wrapped in a velvet glove, because he does it softly. But when he says stuff, and you've heard everyone in the locker room, from David Njoku to Wyatt Teller, come out and say, when Nick speaks, everyone shuts up and listens. Bring you back on a veteran minimum with soft incentives so he can earn a good amount of money. Yes, he's not going to have to worry about money, his generational wealth and all that. And he sounds like a very, very astute young man when it comes to that side of business. But I want him because he is Nick Chubb. Nicholas Jamal Chubb needs to be in the brown and orange until he's done, and then he needs to be brought in on an internship as a coach.
Right.
I agree.
So I say that's David.
Yes.
You took the words right out of my mouth, David.
I love the bloke. I just love him. He's just.
I don't know how you can't. How can anybody not love him?
I want to adopt him.
The fourth running back, Rod, absolutely has to be a special teams player, and if he's your best special teams player, or better than the fifth cornerback, or the sixth linebacker, then absolutely you keep a fourth running back. He's not going to touch the ball more than likely offensively. Because realistically, I think we need.
Wouldn't expect it much. Yeah, I mean our third running back doesn't normally touch the ball all that much.
Normally, right? But I think that'll be a different dynamic if you do bring Nick back, because I just don't think at this point in his career Nick is a bell cow type of guy. I think you're going to have to pick your spots for him. So Jerome Ford, hopefully DeAndre Carter signing means that Jerome Ford's not returning kicks. Yeah, he's handling the bulk of the carries. You draft a rookie that can be your change of pace guy, that can spell forward and hopefully block a little bit on third down. And you like I said, you pick your spots for Nick. Short yardage. You use him as a fullback. You do all kinds of interesting things with him.
He becomes the Kareem Hunt of 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you have a package for him, right? Or packages, right? And I
run
think
the wishbone.
Yeah, right. The right. Let's bring back the wing T, or I don't know.
Mess with people's brains and mess with their defensive formations. You go, wishbone. Hang on a sec. What is this 1980s?
I'm still drafting the best running back I can get, and that's not to say that I'm taking one at 33 or 67. It's where the best value is.
Right. Yes.
whether that's Caleb Johnson or one of the Ohio State guys or somebody a little further down.
I think north of the 105 range. So 105 back.
Yeah.
Back up.
Yeah, I think they're going to take one before then, and I think they should.
Well, I was just sort of using that as
grab
a
one of
mark.
those guys, and then if you take another one with one of those 6-round picks, great. If not, I'm sure there will be a UDFA who can help on this team.
And some of those are sometimes the better ones anyway, because they want to work hard and they want to prove.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's the mindset we need. We need.
Yeah.
I think we've. I know that the three of us have said this previously, and I know you guys have said it. The culture needs to start to bring back that positivity. We need that. You need the blokes like Joel Batonio and Nick Chubb and those sorts of old heads but calm heads in the room to get that culture right. I thought in 18 when Jarvis Landry came on board, he got that culture started to go there. But then, of course, like everything, you've got 53 personnel at the end of the day on the sideline. And then you've got people that'll get their cliques together and then they'll start. And then that can be a sea of malcontent or it can be a sea of positivity, we know. So, and we've obviously had a bit of malcontent over the last 2 or 3 years with issues at quarterback, which we've already discussed earlier tonight, saying that they've realised their mistakes in that, which is great. And I guess that's just for us now on a whole encompassing thing is now a healing statement, and let's not draft fools. Like we need to get to. So here in Australia, with our professional football, Australian rules football, there's a couple of clubs that have an unspoken rule of a no DH policy. So no outside issues, no poor behaviour, poor performances, and we as the Browns have kind of that's all right. We'll let things slide. We need to get to a square box, and go. No, these are our borders. We do not go outside those for drunk and disorderly, driving erratically. 95. All those sorts of things.
You want some professionalism. Is what you want.
But a next level of professionalism that carries over. Have a look at our Cavaliers. They play chess. They play Dungeons and Dragons. We never hear of them rowdy at nightclubs, chasing girls, all that. But they are the most lovable blokes getting out and around, and they make us all get excited watching them. The Guardians seem to be the same.
When's the last time you heard about Jose Ramirez doing anything off the field?
Yeah.
Outside of positivity, and that's what we need.
No, you're right. Yeah.
We need that stuff. We need to hear more about Nick going to the children's hospitals, or Wyatt Teller going to the children's hospitals, the bloke who we just signed has brought his swimming program for helping underprivileged and African American children to swimming. Now, I'm lucky. I live on an island. We're surrounded by water. My kids have been swimming since they were born, basically. But I understand it's not as easy and it's not as accessible for North America as a whole, outside of your coastlines, and obviously the Midwest. That's positive. We need to be focusing on that sort of stuff, He's bringing the swim program to teach underprivileged and African American children to swim pools and so forth and so on, which they may not get much of a chance, but it's an educational tool to broaden everyone's horizons and experience. And that's a positivity that can be brought into the Cleveland Browns as a culture changer. Very minute. I know, but it's all baby steps before we get to.
You're just looking for positives. Yeah. No, I get it totally.
I'm trying to get on the positive bandwagon.
I like it. I like it very much.
We need the leaders, the elder statesmen on our team to set that example, David.
Yeah.
The guys who are making the big bucks and they need to find another level of leadership to do those kinds of things. I agree. And I think the Haslams specifically called out Miles on that with the new contract to be a different kind of leader.
And it doesn't have to be rah-rah.
No.
I'm an exuberant bloke. You guys have known me now for a number of years. I'm exuberant. I get passionate. But that's me. You can do it quietly. I've played with blokes. I've played Australian rules football. I've played American football. I've played baseball, and I've played cricket. I've had blokes in leadership roles of all personalities, but the one thing they've all carried with them is that, as you said, Rod, that level of professionalism, even if it was amateur sport, that level of professionalism, but also that ability to hold a room and get a message across, which is what we need. David Njoku's one is a perfect example of someone who should be doing it. Miles, they don't have to be loud. They can talk to their room. They can talk to ends and backers. They can talk to tight ends and running backs. It doesn't have to be the whole team, but if they're all on the same page, singing from the same hymn book, as you were, we're already standing in the right direction, starting to. As I said, baby steps, I understand. But that's where we need to get to.
Yeah,
that's right.
In my humble opinion.
I got to shout out Jameis Winston for the letter he wrote.
I just saw it. I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Yeah, just very nice, classy. Just really talking about his time in Cleveland and how much it meant to him and how much he appreciated the dog pound and the fans and everything. And you'd almost think that he was on a winning team for how much, for what he said. But that just to hear positive words from a player on their way out the door like that, just a ton of class, and just very positive. I mean, Jameis was a lot of fun to watch. I know he had his issues with the picks and everything, but he's the kind of guy that you need some guys like that on the team. Either to get guys fired up or do the exact things that you guys are talking about.
What we used to call glue guys.
Yeah, that's right.
100%.
So
well, he's obviously a lot more classier than a certain thorn in our side.
Yeah. I'm thinking of several right now, David.
Well, I was being more specific about a particular one that threw the terrible towel. Was waving the threw the Browns hat and was waving the terrible towel. That one on his way out, which is funny because in that 2018 draft, I wanted him. I'd had numerous. Yeah. I think even we may have even talked about it back then. In those days, perhaps maybe it was even may have just been online that I was talking about. Juan Thornhill was one of those blokes that looked like he could go.
I'll be honest with you, I had forgotten about him already.
Yeah. and that's understandable. Slow news day for me so far.
I'm sure the fans in that town will forget about him pretty quickly too.
Absolutely. But what I always think back to is Cleveland was actually the start of we had towels long before they had towels. If we want to get into a tit for tat, I had it first, big brother versus little brother for shenanigans. We actually had the towels. I think if you look back, it was somewhere about 83 to 86. I feel like there was a towel that was given.
It's like an orange towel or something.
Yep. And
do you have one of those, Jeff? I might have one of those.
I might in a box somewhere. Yeah.
If it hasn't been eaten by the moths and silverfish.
Right.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me.
Moved several times.
Yeah. Well, I keep all my stuff in boxes and in a room full of crap. So anyways, yeah.
That's awesome. But so I'm looking forward to reading that. Jameis, I understand from different contacts I have with this fantastic platform of X and everything else that I've been able to do. And I feel very blessed to, be able to hang out with you blokes yet again and speak to a few other people and whatever else, that he did get under the skin of our coaches. And not just the picks, that there was things that went on that wasn't exactly what they wanted necessarily, which is why they may not have been so quick to re-sign him or not wanting to re-sign him, but whatever. Yeah. I wasn't there, so I'm not.
It was pretty obvious that something was going on, and that's probably why he didn't play anymore. I mean, they obviously didn't need to see DTR for the last, 5 games. You didn't need that much time to get a read on DTR.
No.
So yeah, it was pretty obvious that something was up, but yeah, I mean, and what we see as fans is never completely reflective of everything that's going on there. So
Bit of window dressing.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Well, David, we could probably talk to you for hours, but we've been going a while.
It's getting late for you. It's getting late for you, boys. I'm sorry.
It's getting late for us, and we don't want to go into your
waffled.
dinner time here. So
No,
so,
it's
yeah.
only 1:15, 20 past 1. Still plenty of hours.
Too. Maybe you can find some time out on your patio and all that. So, do you have any closing words you'd like to leave everybody with?
Batten down the hatches. It's going to be it's going to be a wild next 3 weeks or thereabouts. Just take everything with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, we 3 here tonight can pontificate as much as we want until the cows come home. We've got no selection. We've got no say in this. We've got no skin in the game, really. We can be happy. We can be sad with whoever they pick and go, oh, those idiots. Oh, amazing. We're going to ride the high. We're going to ride the lows. It's what we do. It's fandom. It's what it's about. So great to see you on a new format, boys. Congratulations. Continued success to you both. Absolutely love the show. I know once I tell the boys when it's out and about, the boys in the Melbourne's Brown Backers will get a listen to it. And Duncan will be most proud that I used his many, many thousands of mock drafts in tonight's conversation.
So love talking about them. Absolutely.
Shout out to you, Dunk. Love you, brother. But yes, thank you, boys, for having me yet again. I hope everyone's enjoyed the show when they catch up and have a listen. And just ride and let's enjoy the NBA and the Major League in the meantime. Let's hope our Guardians get on a bit of a winning run, and let's get these Cavs through to the big dance, because I'd love them to do that again this year. They're a great team. They've been coached beautifully. Donovan Mitchell is I know this is a Browns podcast, but we love Cleveland sport all the way around. Donovan Mitchell has really grown. He's the kind of leader we need in that locker room. I wonder if he's available. Anyway, number 2. Look, again, thank you so much. Much blessings and success to you boys. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. Thank you so much. Jeff, closing words.
I like to use these closing segments to just lend a little perspective. And Jeremy gave me a stat today that I think does that. In 2010, the San Diego Chargers were the last team to be ranked number 1 in the league, both offensively and defensively in terms of yardage. So they were able to accumulate 395.6 yards per game on offense, and they only gave up 271.6 yards per game on defense. So they had two halves of, or two parts of the stool, 2 legs of the stool that year. Unfortunately, they finished 9-7 because of some abysmal special teams play. So just keep in mind that every player on the roster counts, and having the great defense or having the great offense isn't an end-all be-all. This time of year is about putting the best 53 guys on the roster that you possibly can, and then everything else goes up to luck.
Absolutely. All right. This has been the Browns Blitz. We thank you for listening and watching, and we will catch you next time.